everyone, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is the award-winning Fan Show. That's right. Everyone's a fan of something, and we have something for every fan, and I just reached for my glasses like they were there, and they weren't. Oh, it's been a day. It's Tuesday. Thank you all for tuning in on this lovely Tuesday evening or afternoon, depending on where you're listening from. It is afternoon here on the West Coast, but of course the breaking news came earlier regarding Russell Wilson. We will talk about that, as well as a number of other things in headlines. The kickoff to the 2019 NAL season has officially begun, National Arena League, and then of course we had Week 8 of the IFL action, and that did not disappoint either. So we have plenty to talk about. Real quick, in case you missed it, we had the debut of our robotics and tech division special. We've always had that division, but this was the first podcast special that we devoted to it, and it had the co-creator of Battlebots, Greg Munson. He returned to the show for this division special debut, and it did not disappoint in my mind. I mean, you could hear it and you could think something completely different, but in my mind, I thought we had a great conversation. He could not be more excited about the he's the guy that's going to be excited no matter what, just like I am about the show. I am the show's biggest critic, and I am also the show's biggest supporter, right? Because I believe that it's going to be good. So he's a guy who is probably in that same exact boat. He's going to be the biggest critic, but he's also going to be the most excited about it. And he was very excited. So if you haven't had a chance to check out our conversation, go and do so. It's available right now on all the major podcast platforms: Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio, and of course, Spreaker.com. And don't forget that we will be doing the first portion of the show right here on Facebook Live, as well as simultaneously on Spreaker.com. But when we get to our special guest portion of the episode, I do have a good one for you. We're going to kick it over to just Spreaker, and we will conclude our Facebook Live. So make sure that you get your questions, comments, answers, concerns in before that time. And of course, if you miss out on the Facebook Live, you can still, there is a chat feature on Spreaker.com as well. So without further ado or any more delay, let's go ahead and go over today's headlines. Wrong button. There we go. And headlines, of course, brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises. They make great things like these stickers that I will have down in Long Beach, California this coming weekend for Battlebots taping, which I'm very excited about for them to welcome me back for a second year in a row, and it's going to be an honor, a privilege to be down there. And they can do custom stickers, they can do t-shirts, hats, beanies, polos, tablecloths, backdrops, drop and repeats. They're working on a new mic flag for me right now. Those of you that don't know what a mic flag is, it's that little square that goes around the microphone. They're working on one for me right now specifically for Battlebots, so it will have one of these logos on it. So even though the drop and repeat, the backdrop, will not have that logo, I will have one for all 6 divisions so that I can at least have that representation. You know, make it a little bit more clear about what we're there to talk about. Anyway, though, if you have something that you need for marketing, promotional, or otherwise, then please give them a shout. Go and check out their website, dynamiteenterprises.com, or you can also inquire Ethan directly, Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com. And let's see here. A couple of quick questions here to start things off. A question we will start with. Russell Wilson's new contract, if you've heard the news or if you haven't, do you believe that he deserves the contract he got? Because first up in breaking news, Russell Wilson has agreed to terms with the Seattle Seahawks. He has agreed to a 4-year, $140 million deal, and that makes him the highest paid NFL player ever. At least for right now, until the next guy gets it. Because that's all it is right now. It's a game of one-upsmanship, right? So, do you agree? does Russell Wilson deserve to be paid the most of any player in NFL history? Okay, let's not spin it that way, because that's like saying he deserves to be paid more than, guys like Peyton Manning or Brett Favre. Right now, at this moment in time, do you believe that Russell Wilson deserves to be paid the most of any other NFL player? Now, there was a time where I believed that any sort of contract talk between the Seahawks and Russell Wilson, you were no longer paying him for what he could potentially do. You were paying him for what he had already done. Took you to the Super Bowl not once but twice, got you your first ring, something that Hasselbeck couldn't do. And he did it with one of the best boasted defenses of all time. Their clash with the 49ers and their defense is still one of the greatest games in NFL history, in my opinion. And that's not even as a 49ers fan. That's just a fan of great football. But the Legion of Boom, they have come and gone. Marshawn Lynch now plays in Oakland. And he retired, and then he came out of retirement to go and play in Oakland. So Russell Wilson, if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, he's all you've got left. And what's crazy is that he's a guy that has done an amazing job considering his circumstances. No offensive line. And I say that knowing that he's had an offensive line, obviously, but you know what I mean. They didn't protect him for crap. It was like the more he had to scramble and improv, the better he quarterbacked. And it was mind-blowing. As a fan of a rival team, this drove you nuts. You hated to see that. You're like, no, keep him in the pocket. Don't let him get out of it. Don't let him. You wanted to keep him in the pocket. But his offensive line was so bad that they couldn't even be Pro Bowl alternates. I don't even think they could be Pro Bowl alternate. I don't see it. There's never been a single guy in the last several seasons that I believe was noteworthy on that offensive line. But yet Russell Wilson still made it happen. They made the playoffs, and it's crazy to me. So I guess if I'm going to answer my own question, I think he does deserve it, because you're not really paying him for what he could do as far as the advancement of your team. You're paying him to be the face of your franchise, to continue to be the face of your franchise. Like I said, Legion of Boom, they're gone. The Legion of Boom is no more. Marshawn Lynch plays for somebody else, and he's it. He is it. If you're a Seahawks fan, you don't know what the future holds. You don't. And living up here in the Pacific Northwest, I can attest to that. They don't know what's going to happen. So Russell Wilson is your, knight in shining armor. And he is going to continue to sling it for Seattle. 4 years, $140 million. Man, I need to learn how to play quarterback. Is it too late for me to learn how to play quarterback? I could. But that was the big news today. Let's see. The Patriots are signing Demaryius Thomas. He's agreed to a year deal worth up to $6 million. And let's see, there's more mock drafts coming out. Let's see. So Russell Wilson, to break down this contract here, we've got it right here. I wanted all the details for you so you guys could see. So Russell Wilson gets 4 years, $140 million, or $140 million over the course of those 4 years. $65 million signing bonus. So he is now ahead of everybody. The next in line is Aaron Rodgers at $33.5 million, Matt Ryan at $30 million, Kirk Cousins at $28 million, and Jimmy Garoppolo at $27.5 million. And if you look at those next four, one is not like the other. That's Aaron. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl. Matt Ryan's been to a Super Bowl. He lost a Super Bowl. And Patriots fans love to talk about that one, along with the other teams that they've beaten over the years, which the Seahawks happen to be one of them. But it's funny, you don't see Tom Brady's name on there. I don't believe you ever will. I don't. I think it's odd that you could easily justify Tom Brady's name being the one on there. But it won't happen. It just won't. And I worry now, though, because I believe that there's been the quarterback big contract curse. Every quarterback in recent memory that has signed a big contract had a horrible year that following year. Joe Flacco, Colin Kaepernick, Jimmy Garoppolo, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, you name it. They signed that big contract, and their year tanked. It was bad. Look it up. I'm not lying to you. Okay, let's go to the comments. Your guys' turn. Let's see here. Hello, Adam. Hello, James. Hello, everybody. Good to see you guys. Let's see. Adam says, I think you might have To have a few words with Funko, one of the taglines is everyone is a fan of something. If they want to broker a deal with me, I'm cool with it. Let's see here. Yes, how about the Cobras? We will get to them in a moment. Thank you, James, for reminding me. Adam says he hasn't been flashy, but Wilson has done a great job. He gets the job done, I guess, to quote him accurately and respectfully so. And then let's see here. He's exciting to watch, make something out of nothing. Yes, he is this generation's Brett Favre, and it's crazy to think that's what we're witnessing. And it took us long enough to realize that. Let's see here. Adam says he doesn't have the off-field issues. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He turned a hoe into a housewife. Like, that's the joke that runs with Russell Wilson and Ciara, right? Somehow he made that work. Wow. That blows your mind. He doesn't have sideline issues like Odell Beckham Jr. He doesn't have off the field issues like Johnny Manziel. He doesn't have locker room issues like so many other players. He is the face of a franchise. Any franchise would be proud to have him as the face of their franchise. And it's, I hate how much I respect this guy. I really do, especially on a rival team. But I've said it many times before. If I had the choice between Kaepernick and Russell Wilson back in the day, okay, not like asking me right now, it's a stupid question, but back in the day, the good heated rivalry days, when asked that question, I said I would take Wilson over Kaepernick every time. And this was before kneeling. This was before. It's just I liked Wilson's character and attitude better. I did. James says Tom Brady is well compensated by Mr. Kraft. I'm sure he is. I'm sure they compensate him in a lot of different ways. He's got a lot of endorsement deals, so I'm sure anytime they need to renegotiate or restructure his contract, it's not like he's going to lose any sleep over it. I mean, he does what? Mattress commercials. He's done. He's the spokesperson for other things. I mean, Gronk had Tide Pods, but that's what essentially makes a contract easier to negotiate. Is what money you have working for you, and making sure that it's working for you outside your line of work. And Tom Brady has been a guru at that, and that's a blueprint that I think a lot of people can look to follow. As far as these players that are lucky enough to be part of that small percentage that make it beyond the 3 years in the NFL. So I think he deserves it. Hey, Jason, good to see you. Jason joining the chat now. Let's see here. Jay says that's so wrong, but funny as hell. It is. It's. I'm not the first person to say it. I'm not the last one to make a joke about it. So that's. There's that. Okay. You guys tuned in for some IFL NAL news. The NFL, the NAL National Arena League, did kick off its 2019 campaign, and it did so in surprising fashion. The only thing that really went according to plan, which I must say this, I don't know who said that they wouldn't be contenders, because as much as my ear is to the voices in the leagues all over the place, and as much as I have a feeling on the pulse of things indoor and arena football, I hadn't heard a lot of talk about the Cobras struggling this year. I had heard that Massachusetts would be better, but I never heard that Carolina would be worse. Now, they did take a hit by the AFL bug. They have seen some turnover. They've lost some big names. But when you have the right front office and the right coaching staff, and they do their jobs, they don't try to do each other's jobs, they do their jobs, you will always have a successful year. Even if it's not necessarily in wins and losses, growth and development, progress. But if you let the people do their jobs that you hired them to do, you'd be amazed at how smooth things can run. And that is part of the reason why certain players left certain teams last year, is because ownership tried to coach. They made roster decisions, and that is a no-no. They thought they knew the game better than the guys they hired to know the game. You can't do that. You can't. So the Cobras, what they have going very well for them as the reigning defending champs, as a championship organization in its second year, you guys picking up what I'm laying down yet? It wasn't like it was just laid out there for them, this path to the championship. They had to work for it, and then they went into Massachusetts and they got a win. convincingly against last year's MVP, Sean Brackett. Now, of course, I've seen some of the posts on Facebook and social media saying, don't tell me that the Cobras wouldn't have won last year against a Sean Brackett-led Pirates team. Okay, I won't. But what I will say, though, is that you're talking about 2 different years and 2 very different squads. Like, very, very different squads. I mean, if you don't want people to put down the Cobras because of the turnover that they've had, then don't put down another team just because you beat that version of the team when last year's was completely different. I'm just saying, like, it just seems a little gray area-ish for me. And I'm not trying to call anyone out. I'm just saying that from my perspective, that would be the approach that I would take it, is that, yes, you have silenced the doubters this time. Okay, you have a whole season left. And I think the Cobras are putting the right foot forward, and they look championship caliber. That they do. The Predators won. That's right. Predators, back after a 2-year hiatus, they hosted the Columbus Lions, and this was probably the most thrilling game of the NAL weekend, and they pulled it out at the end. They got it done. Congrats to my guys, Rob and Burt Brown, because they're on that squad now. They did very, very good for themselves. And then the expansion New York Streets went into Jacksonville and beat the Sharks. That blows my mind. That really does, because Jacksonville is boasted as the franchise in the NAL, are they not? And they got upset by a brand spanking new team. So there was a serving of some humble pie over the weekend in the NAL, but rankings and, we are as good as our record is. Cobras are they check every mark. Right now, Cobras are number 1 until further notice. Plain and simple. In the IFL, though, we had quite a game on Friday. And that was, or Saturday, yes, Saturday night. We did not have games Friday. We had Saturday and Sunday. And so Saturday, we saw the Green Bay Blizzard host the Nebraska Danger in a first of a doubleheader, back-to-back, right? And another great game. These are games, the 2 with Quad City and now with Nebraska, and even the one previously with Nebraska in week 2. These are games that the old Green Bay Blizzard would lose. And they are winning them. And that's a scary thought. They're doing so with one of the best secondaries in IFL that I've seen in my years of covering it. And they're probably ranked overall number 2 on the defensive side. And their offense is starting to figure it out. They're starting to click. They're starting to mesh. And that is who my special guest is later on in a few minutes. And that's Coach Corey Roberson, if I can spit it out. We had a fun conversation, but he talks about his boys and his squad and how proud he is of them. Let's check in the comments. Let's see here. Yeah, James agrees. Big hits the Carolina Cobras. Let's see here. Well, someone said that the Cobras would struggle. Yes, they did. They apparently. I don't remember seeing that. The person who was named in saying that, I don't doubt it. I believe that that's something that they would say. This person happens to be affiliated with Jacksonville and was previously affiliated with Carolina, so I wouldn't put it past them to say something like that as a little jab. But actions speak louder than words do, as we saw. Let's see here. Yes, the biggest shock was the New York team beating Jacksonville. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I think people saw an expansion team that nobody thought that was kind of a late addition. There were some hurdles they had to get over to make this happen, much like we saw with San Diego in the IFL. And people thought that this was just going to be a spot filler for the league and the schedule. And I think it shocked a lot of people. So that's good. That's very, very good. Let's see here. Did who come back to the Cobras? Did Pac? Oh, are you talking Squally? Pasquale Vacchio? If that's who you're asking about, I have not heard. I know that Craig the Leg, I believe, is settled in Columbus for the Destroyers, as well as Barnett. I haven't heard on Nick Hague, but I know that the camp is still going for the AFL team, so it'll be a bit before everything shakes out officially. Connor Hollenbeck is back from, I believe he went to, where did he go? It wasn't Atlantic City. He went to Columbus as well, I think, and he's back with Iowa. He played with Iowa when they played Bismarck, which that was the thumping of the weekend. I feel so bad for Bismarck because they play really hard, but Iowa, man, they just, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile or a couple. And so Iowa was really impressive this weekend. In fact, I've got the scores here. We'll run them down real quick just so you guys have them. So let's see here. The Final scores for Week 8 in the IFL. Green Bay 60, Nebraska 50. And then we had Iowa 55, Bismarck 16. Arizona 55, Tucson 41, and Cedar Rapids 34, and winless no more. San Diego Strike Force at 40 points. Their kicker had 2 great kicks. One was, it made the top 5 on my top 10 plays of the week, and it was incredible. This thing bounced the right way. It hit the crossbar and went back instead of forward. But congratulations to Ernesto Lacayo, I believe is how it's pronounced. A great moment for him. Probably will be the Kickers Need Love 2 moment of the week. Spoiler alert. I have to do my outstanding players of the week for both the NAL and the IFL, and I got to do a fan show top 10 for the NAL. So I got a busy week ahead of me, busy night. Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday are my busiest days for the fan show. But it was a lot of fun. So we have only one team that has yet to win a game, Bismarck, so we were able to check another off the winless category list there. There was only 2 remaining. Things don't look good for Cedar Rapids right now. That was a tough loss for them to take. It was on the road, and traveling to California from the Midwest is probably going to be the furthest distance, if you're not Green Bay, to California. But then Iowa, they show no signs of stopping. Chuck Miller's doing some great work with them on the defensive side of the ball. Tyrell Pearson had a great game. And then, of course, Tucson and Arizona. As I posted on Facebook earlier this week, if you're friends with me on there, Tucson, they had them. That first half, it was neck and neck. They were doing everything right that you can do against this potent Arizona team. But Arizona is a different beast in the second half. They've outscored their opponents 181-90. A half that teams normally let up or slow down or get winded. They don't. It's like they rope-a-dope. They take the punches the first half to an extent, and then they just come in swinging that second half. And I've talked to guys that have played him. Even Coach Roberson, he was him and I before we recorded. He was talking about when he faced Arizona. He's like, we made adjustments in that first half. He's like, at halftime, we made adjustments. We came out confident in that second half, and that second half is where it all unraveled for Green Bay against Arizona. So this team is the real deal, and right now it's. The 2 best teams are Iowa and Arizona, and it really depends on the week who the best team is. And I believe this week the best team was Iowa. I do. Even though it was Bismarck, a winless team, Arizona played Tucson, who has probably been their toughest opponent next to Sioux Falls. Iowa's been a bit more battle-tested. They've played a few tougher matchups than Arizona, except for Sioux Falls, but that will happen this weekend. And we'll talk about that Thursday. So last call for comments, questions, concerns, answers. Let's see here. Yes, Adam says he had a reverse Cody Parkey in San Diego. Very true. But congrats, San Diego. You don't want to see a team go winless all season unless you hate them. And I don't hate any team in the NFL unless it's... even then I don't hate the team. I just hate the front office because they have a GM that I don't particularly get along with. But that's a story for another time, and I'm sure we've talked about that before on the show. But anyway, good for them. Congratulations, San Diego Strike Force. Winless no more. And I'm pretty sure that about sums up the headlines. Let's see. We're going to have Bobby Brown on for another Outdoors special. There's your Outdoors and news because he's approaching the finals, the last 3 for his bass battles. In music, not much going on there. AC/DC announced that they will be touring again with their original singer who had to call it quits for a while there. And then in pop culture, of course, Avengers Endgame coming up. Shazam is the #1 movie at the box office for now. Good timing, convenient timing on their part. I dare them to put them head-to-head with a Marvel franchise. It could have been any Marvel franchise, and they would have been curb stomped. Wrestling Superstar Shakeup is happening last night tonight. And then, of course, robotics and tech. Battlebots. I will be down there in Long Beach for the taping this weekend. And I'll have plenty of content for you guys. And we'll start doing those regular episodes and specials. It's going to be a lot of fun there. And, yeah, I think that about sums up everything. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the Facebook Live and kick it over to Spreaker.com where you can hear my conversation with the head coach of the Green Bay Blizzard. It's a great one. I wouldn't steer you wrong on this. So without further ado or any more delay, here is my conversation with the head coach of the Green Bay Blizzard, Coach Corey Roberson. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me now is a man who is in charge of a team that is off to one of their best starts in recent memory. In fact, I think goes back to 2012. He's won more games this season than they have, I think, the last couple. But Coach Corey Roberson, how you doing, man? Welcome back.
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you, Rich. Thanks for having me.
It's got to feel good that, you guys did not have the most kind schedule to start out this season. I mean, you guys started out at home for more games than a lot of teams have. Arizona's been at home for a lot of this first part of the season, but you guys had to host Arizona at home to start your season off. And then you guys got one on Nebraska, and then you guys went. And I kept telling people this is an off game when you guys went to Iowa. I was there, I watched, I was like, this is very uncharacteristic of this team. And people were putting you guys to rest already, and it was only week 3. And you guys haven't lost since then. To what, if you had to pinpoint a moment, was that game, that moment, or was there something else that we're seeing now play out with the rise of the Green Bay Blizzard?
I mean, that game was an eye-opener to us as a young team, to show how far we got to go. And then the preparation that the young men have been putting in week in and week out, as well as the coaching staff and just the whole overall organization. That shows what, the product that we're putting on the field and the guys really starting to buy into the process. It was just an eye-opener going against Iowa to show how far, we got the top 3 teams in the league consistently for the past few years. And, we saw where we ranked versus 2 of them out of the first 3 games.
Yeah, and, the last time that you were on, you were talking about how, you guys were a young team. You had a vet like B.J. Hill coming back, which was great, but you didn't even know really who your quarterback was going to be, and you were wanting to get that sorted out, and you just wanted to be competitive against Arizona. I think if you played Arizona again, you'd be extremely competitive, and then, of course, if you guys play Iowa again, it'd be a way different story, but you guys have played Quad City twice, both very close games, but these are games that, previously, the last couple of seasons in Green Bay are games that Green Bay would lose because that came down to that fourth quarter, and can you come up with a stop or can you get these last few points? You guys have done both. Has there been any sort of message in the locker room from you or another vet that is getting these young players to keep their heads held high?
BJ always plays a role in the camaraderie or bringing the guys in and getting them all on the same page. But as far as my message is, just being competitive. At the end of the day, being a resilient, a relentless competitor, and that's translated. You think about that game against Nebraska the first time around. They were I believe that's a playoff team. They have all the capabilities to go to the playoffs. But they kept punching us, and we kept punching back, and at the end we was able to put it away. But it's just been a relentless competitor.
Yeah, and you guys certainly are a relentless competitor, and you played Nebraska, who has a very potent offense with Tommy Armstrong. You guys boast one of the best secondaries in football with Bakari Triggs, Marquez Gulman, and Joe Powell, and really anybody else that you have back there. Isaiah Brown, who's really stepped up. I mean, is this your specialty, or were you just blessed with a very gifted secondary this season?
I mean, I would love to take credit for it. I thought I was a fairly decent DB in my day, but we've been blessed. The guys have bought into the system, and they understand what we're trying to do, and they flying around making plays. So the credit goes to them for being a student of the game and working hard and perfecting their craft for the guys to play at a high level. We still got a lot of work to do, but credit to those guys.
Yeah, and it is a credit to the players, the coaching staff, the fans especially, who have really stuck it out, and they're obviously happy with the product. One of the games that I was watching, you could hardly hear anything. In fact, your photographer Matt said it was louder than a Kiss concert in there. How great does that make you feel as a newer head coach in this league with a fan base like that can be a difference maker, is out there now making a difference and in support of your guys?
No, that means the world for the community to get behind the Blizzard and rally the way they have. I want to say that was 2 games ago, the second time against Quad Cities, and then even this past game. Just the noise that they bring it is a difference. We got a couple of false start penalties on the opposing team in both games, and that they are truly the ninth man on the field for us.
Yeah, it's great to have a fan base that will be loud, that will be raucous, and will support you guys through thick and thin, which Green Bay, they know football, they love football, and indoor is no different. You guys currently right now sit at number 4. 5-2, one of the best records that you guys have had in recent memory. But of course, you're not about just having a better record than the previous season. You're about righting some wrongs, fixing some mistakes, and getting to that postseason. And for you, that next step is going on the road now to Nebraska to take on the danger. In your mind, how hard is it to play the same opponent twice? Because this will be a week that you guys have had to do that twice now with Quad City and now Nebraska.
It is very difficult. It's keeping the guys sharp and understanding, hey, we made a lot of mistakes in that game. Let's go out and correct those mistakes in practice and stay focused on the prize at hand. Taking it that one step, as cliche as it may sound, taking that as one day, one step at a time. And I think that's just the biggest thing, is not being complacent, not relaxing, not being comfortable with where we are. And to go against another team go against the same team twice, the difficult thing that is, especially if it's a heated rivalry or it gets a little chippy in the first game, you best believe it carries over to the next game. But Coach Brown and myself, we've talked, and we're going to do our part, trying to make sure that the guys are keeping their composure in the heated battle. But, the reality is they still got to play the game.
That they do. And you mentioned something I wanted to touch on a little bit because, when this gets brought up, there's not a lot of people that have the same answer each time. It seems like it's kind of almost like a sensitive subject, but at the same time, it is a very real thing. You talk about getting chippy, and we've seen that with you guys in Quad City, a little bit with Nebraska, and that's going to happen when you have to play the same teams multiple times, especially back-to-back like this. How do you keep your guys in check? Because you can't control the other team, but you can at least, for the most part, try and control yours. How do you get them to not be the guy that throws the last punch or that gets the flag tossed on him?
That's always you're right. That's a difficult question. It's just having that conversation, having those conversations with the guys, putting other things in place to hold them accountable for their actions during and outside the game. So it's just taking the next step of making sure that we hold each person within the organization accountable. And speaking of the players, is just making sure that they understand the consequences that comes with that. And you are not allowed to put yourself before the team. You're okay to make a decision that affects you, but not when it comes to the good grade, the cost of the team. So, and we met about that today as we reflected on the game Saturday night. And, I'm hopeful that moving forward, that we'll make better choices.
Yeah, and I think that's very understandable. That's reasonable for sure. And these guys, they're professional, they're adults, but they are young athletes. I think except for maybe B.J. Hill, who's probably one of the older guys, and he should know better. But I think we all get caught up in the heat of the moment, and it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. You want a guy that is reactive, that gets passionate about the game, to know that he's serious about the game, but at the same time you want them to be level-headed enough and have the wherewithal to stay in check, to stay in their lane. So it's a razor's edge for sure, and we see that a lot of this league, especially with the type of intimate game that indoor football is. For you, moving forward as a head coach, being on a great ride, 5-2, a lot of momentum, and seeing a lot of things that you're doing right. What is your focus as far as, is there a particular area of development, or that is number one on your priority list as far as tweaking or fixing some mistakes from the last couple of weeks?
Well, we always start with special teams. So the emphasis on special teams, it was very, very crucial this last game, especially in the second half of this game. We did not play very well on special teams, so we made a point to refocus and continue to keep that a part of our practice plan. Today was an all-day special teams day. I would say there, and then refining some things on offense. Make sure we're putting our players in the best position possible on offense and defense. There's some things. I had some mistakes that I made during the game, and making sure that I correct them from myself as well as our coaching staff, making sure that we are being the best version of us that we can be for our players.
Well, in my mind, the issue with special teams is that B.J. Hill is getting flat out robbed on these kick return touchdowns, and it needs to stop, Coach. It's a crime. Somebody needs to tell this ref that no, there wasn't holding. That's a touchdown, and it's frustrating to watch because they've been beautiful returns for touchdowns, and then they get called back. He should lead the league right now, and I don't even think he has one yet, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah, we still got to play the game, and officials have to do their part. I know it's a tough job with the officiating, but our guys got to put themselves in a better position to make that block, so it's not even close.
Fair enough. All right, so the last question I have for you here, Lenoris Footman. Like I said, the last time that you were on the show to start off the season, you said that you weren't sure, if you had your quarterback situation figured out. He's really blossomed over the last several weeks, doing it through the air and, as the Footman, as I call him. And is that something that you guys have a game plan tailored to him, or is this just letting Lenoris be Lenoris?
Oh, a little bit of both. We let Lenoris be Lenoris, but within the game that we want him to play. He had 100 yards rushing his last game. That was a part of the game plan, and is to keep him running the ball as much as we could, and without putting him in a position which every time we step on the field, there's always that chance, but of something bad happening. But making sure that we keep him upright. The game has slowed down for him, and that was due to our coaching staff helping him, with that process, because it was a transition. He was just playing outdoor football last year.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's definitely something that you got to try to tailor to them and slow the game down for them. Well, you couldn't even tell, really. I mean, I'm watching this film, and I'm seeing a guy who just looks confident. He looks comfortable out there. And when the pocket collapses or when he gets flushed out, it's not a panic. But I saw a few panicked plays from quarterbacks over this last week, and not from him. And so I think that speaks volumes to your coaching staff and being able to get him to be the quarterback that Green Bay needs him to be. So, hey, props to you on that. Really well done.
He's a smart kid. I want to say he was cum laude in his graduating class on criminal justice major. Had one of the highest test scores out of the criminal justice test. So, I mean, he's a student. When you talk about a kid that, brings his playbook, bring his notebook to meetings and writing notes down, if you were to look in his notebook, you would think he was writing a book.
That's a good sign right there for anybody, really. So you got a good player there with a good head on his shoulders. And I just got to clear up one thing with you. There was a time when I started the show and was interviewing coaches and players from over the league where I had a saying called the power of the show, because the player or coach that was on that week would go out and they'd have one of the best games they've had all season. Coach Roberson here, I reach out to him last week and say, hey, Coach, congratulations, big win. What do you think about coming on the show? And the response I get back isn't even a text. It's a phone call that says, hey, man, I love you, but the last time I was on, we lost. It's been one of the most humbling responses and one of the greatest things to ever happen in the history of this show, because for a coach to be that honest with me lets me know that I'm doing something right here.
I respect and love what you're doing. I have become a little superstitious in everything that I've been doing, especially since this streak has started. Yeah, and it was like, hey, wait a minute. I was all for it, and then I got to thinking, I reflect, I said, wait, last time I was on the show, we was about to play Arizona. We lost. Hold up. No, I'm happy you understood my position, and, here we are a week later, and I was open. You was open to bringing me back on the show, so I'm thankful for that.
It took some coaxing. I had to text you and be like, we pretty much had an off-the-record interview when you called me and you told me that, and we ended up talking anyway for a good, 15, 20 minutes. I was like, so can we try and make this one count and see where it goes? Oh, but
I'm
you're
happy to be back.
you're a good sport, Coach. I think what you're doing up there in Green Bay is fantastic. Can't wait to come up there this season, which looks like it's gonna. My earliest projected date was May, but it looks like it's gonna have to wait till June. But either way, Green Bay, I will be there, and I am very excited to come up there again. So you guys keep winning. And we'll see you again this season, and hopefully hear from you. And you've gotten another handful of wins under your belt for this season. But great job, really, truly great job.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely, you take care of yourself.
All right, you too. Thanks.
And one more big thank you to Coach Corey Roberson of the Green Bay Blizzard. That's almost a tongue twister. Coach Corey Roberson. Coach Corey Roberson. It's like people that want you to say toy boat 5 times fast. It's a vocal exercise I'm sure we'll cover in my vocal training class at Full Sail Online right now. But anyway, thank you to him. It was great. It's great to see the Blizzard doing so well right now. Fans certainly deserve to have something to cheer about because they cheer for whatever they can each and every game, and you got to be happy when you have a fan base like that. And now they have something to really cheer about, and you can see the energy. It's become that vicious cycle. The fans are cheering for the players, and the players are getting amped up and giving the fans something to cheer about. So good on Green Bay, and I love it. Can't wait to go there later on this season. The Fan Show Tour 2019 continues as we take a little detour for something not football related, but robotics, and that is Battlebots this weekend, and we'll have plenty of content for that. So don't forget, you can keep up with us on all the social media. Instagram is The Fan Show, but Twitter is @FanShowOfficial, and the Facebook web address, the specific link to it is facebook.com/fanshow official. We completely forgot to talk about Tiger Woods today, but we will not tomorrow. That'll be first and foremost. We will address Tiger Woods and his big weekend. I don't follow golf at all, but this is something that you don't have to follow golf to know just what he did, and we will talk about that tomorrow. So that'll give you something to chew on, a little bit of a teaser for what's to come this week. We'll have another great interview and episode tomorrow, and Thursday we'll do our preview. Friday I fly out, and then next week we got all new episodes, we got all new action this weekend, and we got plenty to discuss right here on The Fan Show. If you cannot listen live, if you cannot watch the first portion of the show on Facebook Live either, don't forget you can subscribe and listen to the show at your convenience. On Demand is available in the form of podcasts on all major podcasting platforms, including iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. We broadcast live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific from Spreaker.com. And you can subscribe there as well. So don't miss a beat, don't miss a minute of great football and nonsense, because it's not official unless it's Fan Show official. And with that, I'll go ahead and wrap up this episode. So I want to thank you all once again for joining me. It's been an incredible Tuesday. Thank you again to Coach Corey Roberson of the Green Bay Blizzard. We got a great week ahead, and I'm excited to chat with all of you about it. So until next time, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and remember, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.